Sometimes it feels like the world is moving at hyperspeed and you can't keep up because it's one thing, then another, and don't forget the meeting and the yoga class and the dinner reservation, but then you get into the all-new Nissan Murano and you feel the breeze from the panoramic moonroof while the massaging seats melt away the tension of the day. And you realize that sometimes the greatest rush is not rushing at all. Shop the all-new Murano at nissanusa.com. Panoramic moonroof massaging leather appointed seats are available features.
This weekend, only at Macy's, it's our lowest prices of spring. How low? Diamond rings, pendants, and earrings, only $399, originally $1,500. Ninja blenders, now $89.99. And $395 men's designer suits, only $99.99. So if you're wondering why you should shop Macy's lowest prices sale, well, the name pretty much says it all. It's our lowest prices for one weekend only. Starts tomorrow at Macy's. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
On with us, Adam West from the Saints Block Party podcast. Adam was in Colorado for Shedeur Sanders' pro day. And Adam, thanks so much for joining us again. And I'm going to ask you right off the bat, but I'm going to tell you something before I ask you. You must feel like Oppenheimer today. You know why? You come up with a story about the possibility of Shedeur Sanders, maybe falling to the Saints at 9. And they got everybody on the internet kind of repeat. And I knew it. Man, as soon as you posted that stuff, man, it went from Jackson Dart to Shedeur Sanders real quick. So first of all, you started that, and not that you predicting that, but you saying that's a possibility. So tell us about the pro day with Shedeur, what you heard there, and also maybe get this observation. Shedeur looked a little bit heavier than the last time I saw him when he was playing at Colorado. Is that he's put on some weight. Now, I'm not saying bad weight. It looks as though he's filled out pretty well, Adam. Yeah,
I think he's, as you know, Mike, these athletes go through this process where they're not really training for football. They're training to this 4-month span of working out for these scouts and doing these athletic things. But I think Shedeur, one of the knocks on him was his frame, right? Kind of similar to the Bryce Young, Tua, and something that he's really worked on is trying to add more muscle mass to him. So he looked more stout, definitely, when I saw him up close. I thought the pro day, it was a good pro day for him, and it was one thing where I wasn't trying to use my fancy camera to take pictures and take a lot of video. I really wanted to kind of take it in and see him throw. And within the numbers, within the intermediate, he was, what you wanted to see, very accurate. The deep ball, he had a couple of nice deep balls, but then there was a couple of deep balls where, it kind of hung up there. And, so I think that's what you get with him as a prospect. And, I asked Coach Deion Sanders about the possibility of him flipping to the Saints at 9, because it's as it gets closer, as we're getting closer to the draft day, it is becoming a possibility that Shedeur will be there at 9. And, I did want to know what Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, thought about his son being with the Saints. But it's funny because the way I asked the question was more about Shedeur's traits and how that would fit into Kellen Moore's offense, not exactly like about if he would be okay with his son being with the Saints. And it's funny how, he took the question. It's funny because it became a thing of its own, and it's very interesting because if you were to ask me right now, just in terms of what I heard there in Colorado and Boulder on that Friday and what I've been hearing recently, I really think what it's going to boil down to on draft day is you have Jeff Ireland and where the Saints have with their scouts with their draft grade on Shedeur. It's not a draft grade of a 9th overall pick. It's probably more that of a high 2nd round pick. But you have a lot of people in the front office that wants to draft a quarterback high. And it feels like it's going to be Shedeur versus maybe Tyler Warren, or maybe Terrell McMillan, but it really feels like Tyler Warren, and feels like that's going to be the debate come draft night at 9 for the Saints.
Adam, if you'd have told Prime that he'd have had Bobby Hebert coach his son, I would have liked to have heard his reaction. Because Bobby J is the only guy that I know of that threw Prime a touchdown pass, and then he threw him an interception that he ran back for a touchdown. So, man, him and Bob are good pals. So it popped in my mind when I heard the deal about it. Man, he'd have really reacted to that one.
Right.
The last time we talked, I know we both agreed that the Saints are in the quarterback business today. There is no doubt somewhere in this process they're going to pick a quarterback. If it's at 9, who knows? I think that's going to come down to who else is available. And I agree with you on the board part. I think the only quarterback that they really would have tried to make a run for would have been Cam Ward. And I don't think they had enough ammunition for that. I'm interested in your take on Jalen Milroe because I think I could make an argument that he's the best athlete in this draft class. When you look at the way he can run with a football, his lower body skills, his good tape is really good. His bad tape is not too good. And so he's not ready for prime time yet on the stage. But he's going to get drafted a lot higher than a lot of people think.
Mm-hmm. I'm still on the Jalen Milroe bandwagon, and I'll tell you what I heard from my source regarding the Saints, that had he not had that second half at Alabama where he kind of cratered, that the Saints loved him and still love him. I don't want to use past tense. Loved him so much that he was on their draft board to probably be their first-round pick. They were infatuated with him of what he was doing early on in the season at Alabama. Keep in mind what he did in Baton Rouge, right in their back door to LSU, right? And he's shown, go watch that Georgia game against the best defense in the country and the show he put on, not just with his legs, but also with his arm. And it's easy to see how people may turn on him because the second half of the season, it got bad.
Sometimes it feels like the world is moving at hyperspeed and you can't keep up because it's one thing then another. And don't forget the meeting and the yoga class and the dinner reservation. But then you get into the all-new Nissan Murano and you feel the breeze from the panoramic moonroof while the massaging seats melt away the tension of the day. And you realize that sometimes the greatest rush is not rushing at all. Shop the all-new Murano at nissanusa.com. Panoramic moonroof massaging leather appointed seats are available features.
This weekend, only at Macy's, it's our lowest prices of spring. How low? Diamond rings, pendants, and earrings, only $399, originally $1,500. Ninja blenders, now $89.99. And $395 men's designer suits, only $99.99. So if you're wondering why you should shop Macy's lowest prices sale, well, the name pretty much says it all. It's our lowest prices for one weekend only. Starts tomorrow at Macy's. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
I like him a lot of the prospect, probably more than a lot more people do. And I think there's I'm going to be careful how I say this. I think there's maybe a plan in place for the team that if they decide to pass on quarterback at 9, if they go best player available, defensive player, wide receiver, Tyler Warren, whoever it is at 9, they may then try to come back in the draft, which we've seen them do before, Mark Ingram, trade a future first, go back in the first round, draft Mark Ingram, come back in the first, and then get a quarterback later on the draft, maybe a Jalen Milroe, maybe a Jackson Dart, and then kind of have their cake and eat it too, where they're staying with their draft board, they're staying with their draft grade and drafting best player available at 9, but then they still want a quarterback, so then they're coming back and still getting the guy that they love at quarterback. But then I would ask the question, well, if you're trading a future first-round pick or you're trading future assets to come back in the first round, then why wouldn't you just take, the quarterback at 9? Because then the draft grade doesn't really matter what the draft grade is. That's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah, you get that fifth-year option if you get back up into round one, and so that's a plus. Here's my thing too about the Saints. If there's one area, and man, you could cross a lot of check marks on areas of need, but one spot they have to spend an early round pick on, Adam, and that's at cornerback, because that was a strength on this team. And then you trade away Lattimore. You see Paulson Adebo sign with the Giants. And now all of a sudden, which last year entering the season was a strength now becomes an area where you didn't get Tre'Davious Ward in the free agency period. That has to be looked at early in the draft. And I'm not talking about first round because it may be beyond that, but it can't be past the second or third round.
No, it can't. And they're in a kind of a good position, and it's weird to say that they're in a cornerback class where there's a lot of talented corners who are coming off an injury where they hadn't been coming off an injury. They would probably first-round pick. You have a Benjamin Morrison of Notre Dame, who, for all accounts, still may end up being a first-round pick. But if he may be available there for the Saints at pick 40. Or you have the Eastern Carolina kid, I believe it's Rabal, who, again, coming off injury, first-round talent that might be there at 40, that likely will be able, if let's say they don't maneuver and they stay to their draft board, not trading future first-round picks, not trading pick 40, that if they have the ability that those corners may fall because they're coming off injuries that are going to be available at 40, that they may be able to draft them at 40 because it is a need. It's 100% a need. You know, they haven't, like right now, if you just break down the depth chart, their cornerbacks are Alontae Taylor, who probably is their nickel. They brought back Isaac Godham, and it gets dicey. It gets dicey, and they have Kool-Aid McKinstry. That's not like their position of cornerback went from a position of strength to a glaring need, and they haven't really done anything to fix it. They tried to add Tre'Davious Ward. He went to the Colts. They actually also tried to go, and this is a scoop that we got from the man himself, who was at a barbershop in Dallas. Shout out to one of our listeners for getting the scoop. They tried to sign Jordan Lewis from the Cowboys, the slot corner at the Cowboys, but the Jaguars offered too much guaranteed money. So they know it's a position of need. So they know it's something that they're going to want to address come draft night as well.
Last question for you, Adam. Will Shepard from Mandeville High School. I saw him play there, and he was a really good athlete. He goes to Vanderbilt, and the last 3 years there, now Vanderbilt's not known for throwing the football a lot, but he caught 150 passes in 3 years there. And then he transferred that last season to Colorado, caught 48 passes. And, really good-looking athlete. He's not the fastest guy in the world, and I'd like to see him fill out the frame a little bit more. But, man, he can get up in the air. He's got great eye-hand coordination. Your thoughts on watching him at the Colorado Pro Day?
Besides Travis Hunter, felt like he stole the show in terms of what he did athletically. 40.5 vertical jump. I believe it was a 10.5 broad jump. Everything he did athletically just looked easy to him. And was not a surprise that former Saints coach Sean Payton was talking to him after the workout was over, trying to get a good word in and see him. I think it's someone that, you know, he wasn't a combine invite. He's someone that is a kind of a 50-50 ball player. I love what I saw from him. You know, probably raised his draft stock to round 5, maybe even round 4. And the Saints need those type of players. So someone that definitely should be on the Saints' radar in the later rounds of the draft.
Man, the one thing with Sean, he smooths with everybody. I'm telling you. He's the ultimate double nut spy. He wants intel on you and what you know about somebody else. Adam, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. I really appreciate it. Always great insights, and we'll have you back on real soon, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. It was a pleasure. You have a great one.
All right. That was Adam West. Does a great job and hits a lot of the pro days. It gets a lot of good inside information on the Saints. We'll be back to finish it off here in hour number 1 of Sports.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.